Got your chainsaw sharpener out there.
Yeah, we're kind of in chainsaw mode. We're cutting firewood 1 or 2 days a week, which means we have saw chains to sharpen. So I had this out. I've made videos on how to use this before. This is a great thing. I love a machine sharpened chain. It makes the saw cut great. But I had this machine sitting on the bench here as I was rigging it up to put it in the vise. And it tipped over a few days ago. And it fell into the tool well. I mean, just from the surface here into the tool well, it's no big deal, just 3 or 4 inches. But it landed in such a way that this handle broke off.
Is that metal or plastic?
This is plastic, but there's a metal bolt inside, and the metal bolt goes inside this cast metal housing. It goes through a hole into the handle, and the metal casting broke.
Really?
Yeah. The head of the bolt was still there. It had its little bite of metal casting, and it was just sitting there, the handle with the bolt, and I thought, oh, that's great. And it's not like it's an easy part to replace. I mean, like this piece here, it's part of the whole body of the thing. And the handle's pretty handy. I mean, I could grab it like this, you swivel it down, but the handle is much handier, so I was kind of disappointed. How on earth can I fix that? Because there's only the slightest, it's just the thickness of the white metal shroud that's the surface, and you can't solder that sort of thing. There's all kinds of plastic around, so I thought, epoxy? No, it's probably not going to work. And then I remembered some stuff that I've been using that I've actually done some remarkable repairs with over the last 6 months or so. And it's cyanoacrylate glue, which is the fancy scientific name for instant glue, or crazy glue.
In that box there?
Super glue, yeah. I have a whole bunch of stuff here. So this is from a company called Star Bond. I had never heard of them before until about 8 months ago, and their claim to fame is that they sell the freshest instant adhesives around. Now, freshness is important because this stuff does have a fairly short shelf life, and I mean, it can last for years, but it's not going to last forever.
I didn't realize freshness was an issue with glue.
Well, with this kind of glue it is. And so I thought, well, let's see how good this stuff is. Because this is a very challenging repair. As I said, there's not a whole lot of surface area to deal with. So I've got medium clear, medium dark, because sometimes if you're going to be doing repairs on wood, sometimes you want to color match.
Sounds like you're describing craft beer there.
Well, yeah, kind of. I wouldn't want to drink this stuff, but I'll tell you, I'm really impressed with how it works. There's the thin viscosity, and then there's this medium black, which is what I decided to use here because the material's black. So it's fairly thick too. And I'll just show you here. It's not all this thick, but I mean, there it is. Okay, so it's kind of full-bodied stuff. I use this to repair something on my tractor, which I'm going to show you in a minute, which has worked out fabulously well. So I gave it a whirl here, but not just the glue on its own, because I sat here for about 5 minutes trying to figure out how I could clamp this, because there's nothing like clamp pressure to improve the survivalhood of a glue joint when you can really get the parts together. But so I put one jaw to clamp here, and I tried to grab it here or here, but the force wasn't straight down, so the handle was always flopping from side to side. So I needed something that was fairly instant. And I mean, this is called an instant adhesive, so you'd think it would be instant, but left on its own, it's not entirely instant. I mean, it can take 5 or 10 minutes for this thick stuff to harden sometimes, and that's a kind of a long time when you're holding. And not that I don't mind standing here for 10 minutes, but you don't want to move it at all when it's setting up, because you know you're going to be breaking the bond a little bit. So what I did was I used some of the Star Bond Accelerator, which is a spray, and it causes these kind of glues to truly harden more or less instantly. So it's got acetone in it. I mean, you can smell it. There's other things in it too, I'm sure, but it evaporates away, so it doesn't really affect things. So what I did here, I used this medium gray Star Bond on this tough repair all around, and also I applied some so that the flange of the handle was bonded to the body as well, to give it a little bit more purchase. On the,
Now, is that the
repair.
goopy stuff I'm seeing in there under the flange? Is
Yes,
that, yeah.
that's what that is. And that's actually several applications. So what I did first was I put the glue on this piece. So as I said, it's the head of the bolt and the bits of cast metal. I put the glue on there, and then I sprayed some of the accelerator onto this surface. And while that accelerator was still wet, I put it together. And in a couple of seconds, it was strong. Wasn't quite as strong as it is now because I with the glue bottle, worked in here. I added some more, and while it was still wet, just give it a little shot of the accelerator. And I am super pleased. I mean, I don't know about you, but at times like this, I'm glad it broke because the repair is so good that it just makes me feel good. So every time I use this thing now, I'm going to think, wow, yeah, that handle's on there really nice now. So as I said, I'm kind of glad the accident happened. It didn't take me long to fix. If you've never seen accelerator in action, let's take a look here. So there's the liquid. And
Clearly quite liquidy.
clearly quite liquidy, and I mean, it's not doing anything, right? It's just sitting there liquidy. It will cure faster than most other things, but let me just spray a little accelerator on. And I believe the acceleration is complete now. Yeah, it's pretty hard. So it really does accelerate. And the nice thing is, it kind of lets you do something like welding, in a sense. Because as I said, with this handle, it's a perfect example. I could only put on so much glue before I put the thing together. And that wasn't enough glue, because as I said, I wanted to build up a sort of a berm of it inside. And
It was enough to hold it, but not for full strength.
Well, I didn't think so. You never really know until it breaks again, if it was under strong. But the nice thing with this is because the thick variety is thick, it doesn't really run away too fast. You can apply it and then give it a shot of accelerator, and it's hard. And then you can do a little more, another shot, boom, it's hard. So it's kind of a game changer. I mean, I've used these instant glues ever since I was a teenager, so I'm well familiar with them. But what I really am impressed here is the different varieties. Like there's the thin and the thick, the thicker, medium, and then combining that with the accelerator and the fact that it's very fresh means that it's just done a terrific repair. So I'll show you one other repair I did with this. I used the thick stuff again, the thick black, and the accelerator, and it saved me a ton of trouble with a pesky problem on one of my old tractors. So let's go and take a look.
So this is the tractor you repaired, eh? Your old Nemesis again.
Yeah, the old Nemesis. With a rig like this, sometimes you fix things properly, other times you just have to cobble things together. And if you do it right, it's going to work well. One of the problems with this tractor that I had was that it was always leaking hydraulic oil from somewhere. And there's a lot of places this thing could leak. So I ignored it for a while, but it was bugging me too much, so I wanted to find out where it was coming out from, because the bottom of the body was kind of wet with oil, and it was dripping out slowly but surely. I found the problem, and it had to do with this dipstick tube. So this is the dipstick that measures how much hydraulic oil is in the transmission and in the hydraulic system. So there's the dipstick here, and then it fits into a tube, which you can see right here. Now, let's go underneath the tractor, and I'll show you that someone over the years has been they've modified this tube a bit. So, can you see this here, Robert? There's this is the tube up here. Can you see that okay?
Kind of.
The tube up there. And then this is a fitting. And the tube is brazed into the fitting. Fine. What I discovered was that the brazing wasn't complete. There was a little spot, where the bronze metal had not flowed and bonded. And because the level of hydraulic oil was higher than that little hole, that's where the oil was coming from. So the proper way to fix it would be to take this out, take it to the shop, clean it, and redo the brazing. Now that's risky. I mean, maybe it might not have turned out all that well. It's a fairly small part, and it's troublesome to get all this stuff off. So I decided to try some of that instant adhesive again.
Let's see where you've done it too.
Yeah. Well, this is 3 or 4 months old now, and I used the same stuff, the dark stuff. I blooped it on, and then immediately hit it with the accelerator, and I just did that 3 or 4 times over the area where the hole was. And this tractor's seen plenty of use since then. It's gotten very hot. It's basically solved the problem, and it was very fast and easy to do compared with the alternative. Now I did have to drain the hydraulic oil out first, because you can't really do a repair like this when hydraulic oil is seeping out. But
it's impressive, though. I mean, you wouldn't think
it's very impressive
glue would be,
because it's so fast. And I mean, it is on there. I tried to peel it off with my fingernail and a screwdriver, and I mean, it might as well be brazing. It's not in terms of heat resistance, but just in terms of how tough it is. So
I mean, on the surface, it sounds kind of bad to say your main farm tractor relies on super glue to work, but in this case, it's actually pretty good.
Well, yes. I mean, you people out there who know what it's like to live with old machinery and to keep it going, you know that sometimes your repair work is a combination of go out and buy a new part and put it on, and you know, you've renewed that little area of the tractor to like new performance. But sometimes to do that, it's just way more trouble than it's worth. So sometimes sort of makeshift repairs are the way to go. You can certainly go too far in that regard, and just, you know, your whole setup is operating off of nothing but baling wire and duct tape, and that's no good.
Well, that's pretty much how this tractor was when you got it, I think, right?
Well, it wasn't bad. I mean, the guy who owned it before, he did some modifications and things, and you know, actually built this grapple on the front because he had some big things to move on his farm, so he wanted something that had a jaw that would kind of open and close and grab things. And
pretty smart guy. Now, is that also the guy who cut off the exhaust, the smokestack, so he can get into that low door in his barn?
Probably. Well, he changed the tractor from a top exhaust stack to a belly exhaust, where the exhaust comes down underneath the tractor, because he did have some low barns and stuff. So, but anyway, high-end instant adhesives have made a pretty big difference here on our shop and our property, and maybe it'll do the same for you. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Give me some feedback, let me know what you think, and check out my website. It's in the description box of the YouTube video, and you can sign up for my newsletter like about 28,000 other people do, and you can hear from me every Saturday morning, and we can share knowledge back and forth and just make life a little bit better.